Right, this video today is going to show you how to make a couscous or couscous, whichever way you actually do pronounce it. So the first thing you need to do in a measuring jug is get yourself 200 milliliters of boiling water. Now what I would suggest is that you check where the 200 milliliters is before you start pouring the water in, so you've got an idea of where you're actually going up to. And then into there you are going to add your stock cube, and I find it easier to actually mix that around with a fork, but you can use a spoon or a wooden spoon, whatever you're more comfortable with. Obviously when you're getting the water out of the kettle, okay, be extremely careful because it could actually scald you if it did get onto your skin, so just be really careful doing that. Again, one of my suggestions, not overfilling the kettle. Okay, you only need 200 milliliters so that it's easier for you actually to lift up. So we need to get all of the stock cube dissolved in there. Okay, and then what we're going to do, if you grab your mixing bowl, we're going to pop in 150 grams of couscous, and then we are going to add the water with the stock in. Okay, that's going to be mixed around, and then you do not really need to do anything else with that. That is going to be, in about 10 minutes time, that's going to be suitable for you to actually eat. You don't need to actually cook it, we're just actually rehydrating it. So just give it a stir around, and then that can actually go over to one side while you get your vegetables prepared. Okay, before I move on, actually, if you don't have a stock cube at home, but you've got some other herbs or spices, I would just suggest that you actually pop something into there to add to the flavour of the couscous. It actually has quite a bland flavour on its own. It don't have a lot of flavour. It's actually a very small version of pasta, so it's really made up of just flour and water or flour and eggs, so it doesn't have a lot of flavour in itself. So if you don't have a stock cube, I really would suggest that you add something to it, even if it's just some garlic, just to give it that bit of flavour. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to prepare is an onion. Okay, I'm using a red onion here, but it could be any onion. And the ingredients I use today, when you go through the recipe sheet, you can see that there's lots of other ingredients you can use. So the first thing that you need to do, okay, just actually hold your onion firm and cut the top of your onion. Okay, you can then peel off the layers of skin, but at this stage we're not going to actually cut off the root. Okay, so we're just going to peel off the skin. So I've peeled all my onion here. As you can see, the root is still actually on there, and I haven't got any peelings on my chopping board. Okay, make sure that you put all of your peelings either straight into the bin, or if you've got a small compost bin in the kitchen, you can just peel it straight into there. But don't leave it on your chopping board, because otherwise it may end up going into your couscous by mistake. So we're going to put the onion now flat down with the root showing. And we're just going to, now again, okay, I'm using the bridge hold here just to actually hold it firm, but making sure the knife is totally the other side of my finger and my thumb. And I'm just pressing my knife through the onion. Okay, now the purpose of keeping the root on is that we can now start chopping up the onion, and the root will actually help keep it all together. So we're going to use the claw grip here now, and we're going to actually cut up towards the onion, up to the root, but not quite through the root. Okay, so we're not going to go through the root, we're just actually going to go up to the root, and then I change there to a bridge hold to make sure I can get the other side. Then we're going to cut in the other direction, so again using your claw grip to make sure that you're keeping your fingers completely out of the way of the knife. Okay, your knife should just slice down your fingers, if anything, through your slice down across your fingernail, sorry. Okay, it shouldn't actually be in contact with any flesh, and then just chop down in the other direction, and that's going to give you your nice small pieces of onion. So once all your onion is chopped up, now what you can do is just directly add that in with your couscous. Now you could just leave it and mix it all around at the end. Okay, but I would suggest that you mix it each time you add a new ingredient, because that just helps to keep your couscous light and fluffy as well, to make sure. Sometimes what you can tend to find, if you leave it, it goes a bit like sand in a bucket, and then when you actually try and get it out, it's just all in one congealed mass. Okay, so just actually giving it a stir as you go along will actually help to keep it nice and fluffy. Okay, then we're going to actually move on to your pepper. Okay, so your pepper, we're going to cut through the top first of all. So again, making sure our fingers are completely out of the way. Now, the easiest way I tend to do with the pepper, take the top off and then just use your hands to actually pull the whole of the center out. Okay, that tends to get it all out in one go. Okay, as opposed to trying to cut it and then deal with all of the seeds separately, because we don't actually want the seeds going into our couscous. Okay, so I'll show you now. This is okay, so I've managed to get all of the seeds out of there, and I'm just going to pop all of this first of all into my compost bin, so that I've got again a nice clear board to work with. So as you can see, I've got a nice clear board again now to actually start chopping my pepper on, which means none of those bits that I don't want going in are going to end up going in by accident. So with your pepper, what I tend to find is easier. There's lots of different ways of cutting this. I tend to find it easier to cut it into rings and then cut the rings into smaller pieces. And I also tend to find it's easier if you can squeeze the pepper together while you're cutting, and it just actually makes it that bit firmer for you. So I just chop off a slice of the pepper, and then making sure my fingers are completely out of the way, I just actually then chop that up into smaller pieces. Okay, the important thing with a couscous, this is something that you're going to actually eat. As I said, you can just eat it directly as it is with a spoon. So try and make sure your pieces are small enough. So, well, whether you're eating it with a fork or a spoon, make sure your pieces are small enough so that you're actually getting a few different pieces of vegetables onto each spoonful that you take. Another way you could do your pepper, you may find it easier to actually hold it flat down and cut a slice off your pepper, and then just cut that again into smaller pieces. Okay, make sure every time though, however you're doing it, as I said, you're keeping your fingers completely out of the way. So the pepper's all cut, that's ready to go in as well. Now if you notice, although I have obviously washed my hands and I've been handling the food, when I pop it in, I'm just actually using the knife to scrape it into the bowl, just to really limit the amount that we are touching the ingredients. Although obviously I'm sure you will all wash your hands, you know the procedure with that, washing your hands before you start to cook. So again, okay, just mixing that all around. Okay, now what I want to demonstrate to you is what I call the traffic light couscous. So you've actually got some red. So we've got the red there with the peppers, and we've got the red with the onions. Now generally in school we'd only tend to put 3 additions in here because of time, but as you're doing this at home you can put as many as you want in. So I've put the pepper and the onion in to actually show you the chopping of both of those. If I'd had a green pepper, I would have actually have used that instead. So I'm going to, for my green, I'm going to actually pop some cucumber into there. So the easiest thing I tend to find with cucumber, and again holding your food securely but away from your fingers, is just actually cut that into slices. And then when I cut it into slices, again we've got your bridge hold here, I cut it across one way and then cut it into smaller pieces. Now you can put whole slices in if you want to. Okay, that's going to make it just a little bit more tricky to eat. You could cut your cut your cucumber into triangles. Okay, so that would be another way of doing it. Okay, so you could just cut it in one direction and then the other direction, so you've got small triangles or small wedges of cucumber. To try and keep mine to the same sort of size as my onion and my pepper though, I'm just going to actually cut that up into smaller cubes. So again then that can be added into the bowl, and again just mixed around. Okay, now you can see I haven't really used a very sensible sized bowl here. I was trying to use one of my smaller ones to keep it in the shot well, but I've got quite a few obviously ingredients in there now, so it's a bit harder to mix. So try and make sure if you've got a slightly larger bowl at home that you're actually using that. So we've got the green, we've got the red. Okay, so now I want to add a bit of yellow to that. So what I'm going to do is pop in some sweet corn. Okay, I absolutely love sweet corn. I put sweet corn in a lot of things that I make. So pop the sweet corn in, and again just give that a good mix around. And then that generally is ready for you to serve. You could pop it into a container and keep it in the fridge for a couple of days if you didn't want to eat it all straight away. Something else that you may like to do at home, which again we wouldn't do in school because of the time, but you've got time at home potentially to do that. It's really nice if you actually add some roasted vegetables to that, so, or frying up your onions and your peppers, so making it a sort of more Mediterranean couscous. Okay, I can appreciate you can't see the colours too good with the light. I've got the sun shining in through the window on me there. Okay, but hopefully you can see all of that. You could try using some different, more unusual ingredients, like pomegranate goes quite nice in there. You could put some currants or some raisins in. That tends to make it nice and moist when you're actually eating it, and the colour of the raisins or the currants actually does add a lovely dark colour, the same as olives would do, for example. Okay, so there's lots of ingredients there you could experiment with. So I look forward to seeing what you manage to make.